Hi, welcome to Audiobook Academy. This is a self-paced audiobook. There's no need to keep an eye on things. Just pay attention. Thank you for taking the time to listen. Welcome to the newest update to the site. LinkedIn Learning podcasts are a great way to learn more about the company. We've compiled a list of the greatest business podcasts available. They've become much more accessible to listen to. Each episode is broken down into segments. Make use of the links in the contents section to get straight to the section you want. We're continuously searching for new ways to make learning easier for you. And we'd love to hear from you. Thank you for taking the time to listen. Neuroscience-related information is always fascinating, and you're on the cutting edge of it. MIT and elsewhere have done some interesting research in teaching. So, how about we get started if you could share with us possibly one of the most intriguing recent finds? Isn't that something that came out of neuroscience? Sure. Well, it's the one on which I've spent the most time researching. Because I believe it is the most intriguing is concerned with neuroplasticity. As a result, we used to believe that by the age of 18, our brain has evolved and expanded a lot. By that age, our personalities were mostly formed. We now know there is huge increase, ranging from 0 to 2. That there is a lot of neural connection pruning during adolescence, yet, the brain actively shapes and molds itself. Everything we smell, everything we see, everything we hear, everything we see, everything we hear, everything we hear, everything with single person we meet, every single feeling we feel till we're approximately 25 years old, and then from 25 to 65 years old. We must actively engage in activities, such as learning new skills. Exposing ourselves to a variety of situations to keep the brain as adaptable as possible, or what we refer to as plastic as much as feasible, that is, if you begin to make some changes. When you're in your late 30s or early 40s, you can even help to slow down the deterioration. This is beginning to happen in some cognitive functions. I'm roughly 70 years old. So, when I first started fully understanding this, it has simply opened up a whole new world for me. In terms of what you're capable of, it also flips the premise on its head. Of self-sufficiency beliefs as a result, in terms of practice. So, what does this imply for us? As a result, our brains continue to evolve. We can have an impact on how they are transformed. But in terms of, practicality, capabilities for skill acquisition or learning, so, what does this imply for us? There are two important points to consider. Actually, I'd like to concentrate on skill acquisition. But first and foremost, I'd want to state, because if we don't think about neuroplasticity, we won't be able to think about it. After then, our brain is altered. We are influenced by stuff we aren't aware of. And frankly, I don't think that's a good thing. It's something I'd really like to see happen. As a result, I'm very careful of what I see on television, who I hang around with, what I read in the news, because I'm acutely aware of all of those factors will have an impact on my psyche. Aside from that, in terms of proactively bringing and instilling flexibility and change in your mind, it's all about continuing to learn, as well as introducing oneself to new experiences. The reason for this is that change is inevitable around us, which can be very stressful for some people. Some people appear to be able to ride the wave of change more easily than others. The more we've done to bring about change, the better. As a result, we must immunize ourselves. In the face of change's stress, the easier it will be to deal with such issues that might happen out of nowhere, both at work and in life. Things like learning a new skill, on the other hand. Learning a new language is my favorite analogy for this. It's a physiological process that takes place in the brain. Building a highway from a dirt road is similar to building a road from a dirt road. A paved roadway on which you can travel at fast speeds. That is essentially the first step in learning a language. When you go on vacation, when you have a few sentences from the beginning to the end of the process of becoming fluent in Spanish, if that's the language you want to use. And what I most enjoy about it is the language aspect. Is simple to comprehend. If I use an app or take lessons, yes, I am capable of learning a new language. It does, however, apply to things like emotional intelligence or mental toughness, both of which appear to be far more intangible. However, when neuroscience informs us that it's the same mechanism, we believe it. It appears to be much more attainable for people in their heads. Here's a few more. In relation to what you said, you stated that if we make modifications, we grow more resilient to unanticipated shocks as a result of this and the events that occur in our lives. What's going on here? In general, anything new. The brain perceives everything different as a danger. As a result, the more we actively introduce our brain, the better. To fresh and unusual experiences, when something goes wrong, it will be less distressing. This is something that happens out of the blue at work or in life. That we hadn't anticipated. As a result, we're effectively expanding our comfort zone. With new and unusual items, if we take on fresh learning, what are we doing? Every day of our lives, like a musical instrument or a language, or simply hearing in a new manner compared to how we've been listening previously, is that the brain is more malleable than most other materials. So that if something unexpected happens around us, we will be prepared. That we hadn't anticipated, we've been there, and we know how it feels. And we're in a better position to deal with it. Actually, it begins at birth. If you have little children, it's also important to raise children bilingually or multilingually. One of the most beneficial things you can do later in life, for what we refer to as executive functions. So executive functions are things like being able to plan ahead of time, to keep your emotions in check, especially in times of stress, being ability to think creatively or flexibly, as well as the ability to tackle difficult situations. There are research that suggests that children's behavior is influenced by their environment. Those who have been raised bilingually have a better chance of succeeding at a later stage of life. As a result, we won't be eligible for the same benefits as though learning a second language from birth. If we don't already have it, however, we're attempting to replicate that in our adult brains. Somehow, I'm sure I've had similar experiences. When I remember back to my early consulting days, as if I didn't know, hey, if you find it out, I feel as if I don't know where to begin. Then I'd answer, well, I suppose it makes sense. If we checked out this, then 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 this, and then, before I knew it, I devised a sound strategy. After that, you repeat the process countless of times. It's all right. It's like, sure, what we're going to do next is a mystery to me. However, history and my personal experience have taught me that that's all right. That over time, we will be able to. Everything is okay now that you've gotten to the bottom of it. Pete, that tells me a lot about your mind already. Because if you consider someone who is primarily or heavily reliant on logical reasoning, they might have a hard time in the situation. Someone who relies completely or heavily on technology, for example, could be in risk. On motivating thinking or creative thinking, you've most likely operated in a smooth manner, utilizing a variety of thought processes, because you know one of them will be able to help you even to something you don't understand. As a result, logic is based on what we already know. And that we've formally learned. Intuition is based on knowledge and experience that we've picked up along the way. However, there is also empathy. There's the brain-body link, for example. There's the matter of remaining resilient and driven. There's also imaginative thinking. So, if you're able to go through those, that's great. There are at least 6 different approaches to fixing an issue. You'll be considerably more likely to find a solution compared to relying solely on one or 2 main modes of thought. Well, I really appreciate how you've set everything up. There's a foundation there. Could you please provide us those 6 quick bullet points? How might we approach a problem in 6 different ways? Is it possible to hear them again? Yes, and I prefer to arrange them in a specific order. Because I think logical, technical thinking is important in today's world. Everything is so overrated. So it's evident that it's there, and that it's significant. But I prefer to start at the beginning, with mastering our emotions. To be honest, if you become overly emotional, perhaps you are oblivious to the impact of emotion when you're in a crisis. It's easy to lose your cool. As a result, I'd say the 6 are gaining emotional control, relying on your instincts or intuition, paying attention to your body. Logic dictates that we make wise decisions. To achieve your objectives, you must remain motivated and tenacious. And designing with your imagination. The real-world outcomes you'd like to achieve. Listening to a person's body is in fact a feeling that we have, something only a few people are aware of. This is known as interoception. As with the 5 senses that we are all aware of, the acknowledgement is known as interoception. Of the physiological status of your internal organs, it's how, for instance, our children learn to communicate with us. When they're starving or when they have to use the restroom. As a result, you are aware of the sensation that you have to use the restroom. It's all about understanding. Feelings that are a little more intangible, such as your stomach is churning, or the small hairs standing on end on your arms, or flushing, sweating, or uneasy laughter. So it's just a matter of becoming more conscious of our bodies. Than we can be when we're pressed for time and laser-like focus on a crucial deadline. As a result, I'm intrigued. With the information we're receiving from our bodies, what are some examples, do you know? If this is the case, I suppose this is the case. In relation to, it's almost like recipes. If you've noticed this, something is twitching, and I'm not sure what it is. Her hair is sticking on end, you never know what you'll come up with. Or, take from that a signal like this. There are a few really particular ones, to be sure. Then there are some, I believe. That is largely dependent on the individual. But, there's one that I talk about a lot. With the people I coach is about how to tell if you have a magnesium deficit in your body. So, according to data, in today's globe, 75% of people are illiterate. Magnesium levels in their bodies are low. I'm not kidding. No. Our sleep is being harmed as a result of this. I've learned from other sources. It's doing havoc on our immune system. It's also making us more stressed. It has far-reaching consequences. When we're under duress, magnesium is lost from our bodies. As if you were preparing for a marathon, for example. You'd consume more protein. When we're under duress, magnesium supplementation is required. Now, how do you know that? If you have high amounts of the stress hormone cortisol, or magnesium deficiency, they have a tendency to go together. A rather obvious method of knowing if you ever develop a twitchy eyelid, this is what you should do. Maybe a teeny tiny yes. Whenever I say it, I mean it. Everyone says, yes, I know how you feel. And it happens to me from time to time. It can cause cramping in your feet at times. Or simply wiggle your fingers or toes, but that's just the way it is. This is a strong indicator of magnesium insufficiency. Many individuals are unaware of this. However, if you do know, you're free to take your magnesium supplement now. As well as, perhaps, lowering your stress levels and put an end to the harmful repercussions on your resistance and immune system. I'm referring to a situation that is out of the ordinary. To be honest, I've done a lot of it. Since 2007, I've been providing coaching and financial services. I've also worked with. There were far too many persons who said, yes, I had been suffering from chest pain for months. But I never imagined having a heart attack. And, as you may be aware, I've worked with in their 40s and 60s, men and women who have suffered from little heart attacks. Sometimes, people die terribly who have witnessed their coworkers die on the trading floor, so that's the apex of not listening to your body. However, there are other minor details to consider. That we are able to hear whether it's because we're not getting enough sleep. Alternatively, we may have twitching muscles. Everything the way down to, do you feel fatigued when you spend time with others? With a certain individual? Do you have a lot of energy? When you're working on a particular project? And you're putting it to good use. To decide what you want to do. And with whom you do it. If we wish to rewire our brains intelligently. And wondering how we should go about achieving it. As a result, we discussed it as if it were a language or a musical instrument. or any other fresh idea that comes to mind. However, I'm curious as to what some of the roadblocks are. Or, I suppose, best and worst practices when it comes to ensuring that we're molding in the right direction. What's up with this plastic brain? As a result, I believe it is critical to state that something, such as learning a new language or playing a musical instrument, is quite demanding of one's attention. As a result, it will unavoidably divert resources from your day job, or your work-life balance, as the case may be. As a result, I only recommend things that significant. When you have plenty of time and space to make such items a part of your life, there are numerous simple actions that we can take, even when we are worried or overworked, that are extremely beneficial to the cultivation of this brain and mindset, are more adaptable. As an example, consider journaling. It's a really straightforward procedure. It's something that, hopefully, will come to fruition. In most cases, a few minutes would enough. Almost every day of the week. And this has the effect of raising, from a state of non-consciousness to a state of consciousness, any habits of behavior that could be a hindrance to your accomplishments. When I'm finished, I'll have to say that a habit of writing in a journal on a regular basis, where I have spent anywhere from 6 months to a year at various periods doing it on a regular basis, that isn't something I always do now. And I've gone through 3 to 6 months worth of emails. As a result of what I've written, seeing your own handwriting is extremely frightening. And the repetition of your own cognitive processes several times over, where you completely anticipate a different result, prevent repeating the same mistake. And, believe it or not, we've all heard about it. But when you see it written in your own handwriting, it's a different story. You're forced to do it. To make an effort to do something different in the future as a result. It's truly a very good way. When it comes to tapping your intuition and witnessing what happens when you follow your instincts. And perhaps where that was not the best course of action. Could you offer us some examples, please? In your own or others' journals that you're aware of. Holy smokes, this is there, they murmured. And I was completely oblivious to it previously. Now I'm going to try something new. So, I'll give you an example from my own life. Based on stuff we've already discussed, which was, I go to MIT Sloan twice a year to teach. And I frequently carry my journal with me. I have more time there because I have more time there. I'm not with my family or anything like that. I was also keeping a journal. Then I thought to myself, I'm curious about what I wrote 6 months ago. As a result, I focused my attention on a single period of time. I was in Boston, and I had made a recording that my eyelid was twitching. At the time, I was experiencing it once more. As a result, I figured out that travel, jet lag, and it's simply being on the plane. I was experiencing some anxiety as a result of being in a new place. As a result, I've gotten a lot better at making sure everything is in order. Before I left on my trip, I made sure I had taken all of my supplements. I'm always carrying my supplements around with me. And just upping the magnesium dosage whenever I was on the road. That's a little detail. At the other end of the scale, I'd say, one of the most common things I've heard from clients and friends when you've been in a horrible relationship. Talk about it. You've been here for a long time, but you still haven't left. And just thinking about it in your head isn't enough. It's easy to forget that you've had the same experience. Over and over, there is a gnawing doubt. If you write it down, you'll be able to prove it. It all becomes so much clearer. As though it's been brought to your attention. And I'm sure it's helped a lot of people. To avoid making the same error over and over. I believe the same thing can happen. I'll use it when I need to fire someone. Fortunately, this is a rare occurrence. It's similar to all those minor details. It's like, wow, this is strange. It's interesting. It's as if, he's just like, you may, in a sense, make a hasty excuse. A justification or rationalization in the moment for one minor detail. But then you lose track of what you've done before. Before that, 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 before that. Having a log, on the other hand, is like, wow. This has happened 50 times. And a lot of them follow the same path. And we've talked about a lot of them before. This isn't going anywhere, I assume. Absolutely. When I talk about a horrible relationship, I imply I'm referring to both personal and professional situations. In addition, you have a negative relationship with yourself. So take, for example, alcohol, which is a no-brainer. However, if you want to go deeper into psychology, the inability to say no is one of them. Journaling helps to clarify a lot of things. So, let's talk about visualizing for a minute. Specifically. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on what that's doing to our brains. And the potential outcomes we might be able to get from it. So you're aware of how we discussed anything? Novel to the point of posing a harm to the brain? Yeah. What visualization does is it helps you to become more aware of your surroundings. Rehearse a scenario or picture a specific incident. Or a result, and because when you see it in your mind's eye. When a situation similar to this occurs in real life, it isn't as dangerous as it appears to be. Because you've seen it before in your head, there is now a lot of research on visualization. As well as the brain. If someone is in a coma, for example, you next ask them to visualize themselves playing tennis. It truly engages the areas of the brain that are involved in decision-making. When someone is physically playing tennis, they are active. As a result, the entire movement components, including hand-eye coordination, it truly triggers the social features even if you're in a coma. Just envisioning it can help. Same areas of the brain are activated. We also understand that simply knowing something is a powerful thing. That anything can be done by envisioning it in your mind, you can get half of one. Makes it more likely that you'll be able to attain it physically. As a result, visualization has its origins in sports science. As well as the famous illustration of a human running the sub-4-minute mile is a goal for many athletes. So we didn't believe it at first. That such a thing was conceivable on a physical level, when Roger Bannister was the first man to run a marathon. In 2 months, I'll be able to run a mile in under 4 minutes. 7 more competitors have run a mile in under 4 minutes. So that's hardly quite self-visualization, is it? It's knowing that something was feasible that's important. Makes it possible for you to achieve it, and it's on this principle that visualization is based. My favorite visualizing story is a research that looked at persons in their 80s. So there were 3 groups of octogenarians, one of which was simply asked should continue living normally for a week. They were in charge of the control group. One group was instructed to reminisce about their childhood. Describe how it felt to be in your 60s, and one particular group was actually transported visiting houses that looked like theirs 20 years ago. They had images of themselves from 20 years ago in their home. They also had their visual and walking aids taken away. If they weren't something they used 20 years ago, they'd be obsolete. Both the reminiscing and the reminiscing groups, moreover, the active group demonstrated progress in their acuity of vision after 1 week, and musculoskeletal coordination. The outcomes of the recalling group were less dramatic. As people who genuinely lived in a different way, however, they were noteworthy in and of themselves. So there are a plethora of examples. Visualization of what most people don't consider to be visualization, but simply to get back to the beginning, I actually referred to it as an action board instead of a vision board. Because, it's not something you can make. Images of what you desire to achieve in life and simply sit back and wait for it to happen. To make that more likely, you must take active steps. But one of them is to have a look at this board and picture it becoming a reality. So, if we're going to visualize something for a purpose, let's imagine someone wishes to advance in their career, attain a position of leadership in their company. So, if we're aiming for that, and we'd like to do some visualization, how might we go about achieving that in the most efficient way possible? If you wish to concentrate solely on gaining a promotion, then, despite the fact that I term it visualization, bringing in new people is, in my opinion, a good idea. All of the other senses are crucial. As a result, it's almost as if you're meditating. You'd set aside a particular amount of time. As many times as you can during the week. You may even begin with a 1-minute timer. and gradually increase to 5, 10, or 15 minutes. And you might see yourself working in that coveted corner office, donning that suit or whatever it is that represents you achieving that position of leadership, and you'd be able to see who's in your immediate vicinity. How does it feel to be in that situation? What does it feel like to you in your body and mind? What's the scent like? What does it taste like, too? Like the taste of achievement, and you'd basically picture it till you're almost able to experience it with your 5 senses as well as in your body, and, as I already stated, you would increase your practice to ever increasingly lengthy spans of time. As a result, when you go for a job interview, for example, you will be prepared. It doesn't seem so strange anymore. And, one of the things I promote is apply for employment based on neuroscience research that you didn't think you'd be able to obtain even if you get some additional interview experience, or you seek additional resume assistance. It's all leading up to it becoming a reality. In the future, it is increasingly likely. What visualization essentially does, it prepares your brain to recognize opportunities that would have otherwise gone unnoticed. The most recent meditation research reveals that 20 minutes of transcendental meditation, it's best to do it twice a day. So that wasn't all that long. I mean, I'm still working my way up to it. I'm not going to claim to be meditating right now, because I'm not. I'm going to do it for 20 minutes twice a day. Despite the fact that I would claim that a growing number of my clientele, that is exactly what we are doing right now. So I believe that starting with 10 minutes is a good place to start. You make an effort to do it on most days of the week, you go there on a daily basis. You can either do 10 minutes twice a day, or you may do 20 minutes twice a day. Alternatively, you might raise it to 20 minutes once a day. And, you're just you. It literally creates a neural pathway in your brain. From a gravel road to the interstate, it's only a matter of smoothing out the way. Practice something on purpose as well as repeating it till it becomes second nature to you. After that, you can use meditation and visualization to help you relax. You can just turn it on when you require it. That's one of the most appealing aspects of activities like journaling, as well as visualization. If you lay the groundwork correctly, you'll be fine. It takes on the characteristics of a superpower. Things you can use whenever you want, and when you say transcendental meditation, you're not joking. Is there something else? When I think about meditation, this is what comes to mind. Concentrating on the breath and other such things? The term transcendental meditation refers to a type of meditation that focuses on the mind. A mantra is a phrase that is repeated over and over again. So, it's a religious vocation into which you can be ordained. But, in terms of remaining secular and concentrating on business and leadership, I ask folks to consider what I'm saying. A feeling of uneasiness or anxiety that they have on a regular basis. I'll never receive that promotion, for example. As well as to come up with their own positive affirmation that eliminates insecurity. After that, you can include it into your meditation. So, even if you only use it occasionally, it's worth it. When you're having a bad day and you're thinking about something awful. Alternatively, you can sit down and repeat the process for 10 to 20 minutes. It works in any case. I believe that coming up with a personal motto is a good idea. You can go get a mantra if you want. From another source, however, I believe that there is a very good approach for leaders to use it. Is to consider, okay, what is the source of my insecurity? And then to come up with a mantra to assist you reinterpret it. So, the chant may be, so, that's a job I'm perfectly capable of accomplishing. Yeah. Okay. Is it really that simple? Something along those lines? It's literally that easy. Okay. Whatever is most convenient for you and your word. So, exactly what you said, every single one of your listeners may go ahead and change it for their own phraseology and what is truly meaningful to them, and make it their slogan. Yeah. I understand you have some expert advice. If you're having a rough day, this is what you should do. You don't feel exhausted, instead, you're irritable. You're agitated. You'd much prefer be in bed. What can we do to quickly turn things around? Okay. In an ideal world, you'd make certain that you're well rested, fed, and hydrated, assuming that you meditate on a regular basis. But on a day when you haven't been doing much all of those things, I sort of list of items that are frequently encountered that step and think to yourself, okay, I'm exhausted and irritable. And today isn't going the way I'd like it to. Is there any way I can have a glass of water? That's usually a yes. Do I have time to meditate for 10 minutes? That may be a yes, but it could also be a no. So, if you don't already know, perhaps a simple positive affirmation would suffice. If you have more time, please do so. Do I have time to go for a run or a walk outside? One of the most important resources is oxygen for the brain and the way we think. Do I have enough time if we have additional time? Normally, that would be a no, but you never know. Let's pretend you have a crucial interview coming up. You did have the afternoon, after all, to prepare for it at home if you're extremely exhausted, or if you haven't slept in a long time, and that could be a very wonderful thing to do. Again, this is a highly personalized situation. Caffeine should be used sparingly. I don't advocate consuming excessive amounts of caffeine or drinking caffeinated beverages later in the day. However, if you have an important meeting or interview, you should dress appropriately. You might want to take a caffeine injection, just for the sake of a short-term increase. If you're looking for something more long-term, after that, there are things like eating blueberries. Consuming a teaspoon of MCT oil or coconut oil are only good for a limited period of time. That we can do to help our brains perform better. In an ideal world, we'd be doing those things for a longer period of time. Maintaining the physical health of our brain to make full use of our brain resources. Yes, that concept of how much time do you have appeals to me. And just having a general idea of what's going on. And it appears that they are most likely, once again, some universals that are beneficial to everyone. After that, I imagine certain specifics in relation to, oh my, no matter what music I listen to, then I'm off and running. So I'm guessing there's a substantial benefit. Consider devoting some time to creating your own. What's my 1-minute, 5-minute, and 10-minute plan? A sort of hit list for 10 minutes. It's a fantastic piece of music. So I'm glad you brought it up since I had forgotten about that as well. I also feel that making a list is a good idea. As a result, for a variety of reasons, I've been making lists for a long time. That I am no longer in need of the list, however, I had a list of positive affirmations for when I need them, you know. I was in desperate need of a boost. I had a long list of achievements. When I required a slightly lengthier word, I used this. Yes, I am available for that position. You could work on a self-project of some sort. Making a gratitude list, for example, is something that has the ability to completely change your perspective. Should adopt a more positive mindset in order to keep these items on the list. As a result, if your energy level is extremely low, you can simply look through the list. You don't have to come up with anything yourself. Is a fantastic concept. Whether it's a square of dark chocolate or a glass of wine, talk to a friend and listen to music. You are entirely correct. All of these things may or may not be effective for various persons. You'll also need to understand what the correct things are appropriate for you and your schedule. You can see what I like to do on occasion. Twitter is usually a waste of time. However, there's this account that you only had one job. Which only is ridiculously funny. I consider it in terms of, persons behaving in the manner of road signs. Merely grossly wrong or improperly naming things, it simply presses all of my correct buttons, and it does so quickly. It's like, oh, there's a joke, ha ha, or anything along those lines. Oh, and there's one more, ha ha. There's yet another. Then it's like, well, that was nice. For 3 minutes, then return to anything else, and now there's a lot of laughter going on in my house. I admire the way you keep things intuitively. Concentrating on the things that have been backed up because humor is supported by neuroscience has a significant impact on the brain, so even if it's just you sitting alone, you're on Twitter, and you're chuckling to yourself. Has a positive impact on the brain, however, I was genuinely laughing with someone else. Assume you're in one of those uncomfortable situations. Circumstances at work, humor is really beneficial when it is shared. In terms of bonding and lowering our guard, we have a lot on our minds. Increasing our likelihood of working together. So, each of the topics that we've discussed not only to ourselves, but also to others, but also in terms of how you might make a good difference. Someone else's brain, if you will. So, tell me if there's anything else I should know. You'd like to make a point about? Another crucial area, in my opinion, is sleep is the subject of a lot of neurological research. And as a neuroscientist, I find it quite depressing. Because there are still powerful people who will say, I only get 4 or 5 hours of sleep per night. Simply because of the ripple effect it has on so many others who believe that they should follow suit. There is currently Nobel Prize-winning research that proves this. That there is a distinct cleansing procedure. The glymphatic system is a mechanism in the brain that transports fluid. It takes 7 to 8 hours to do this task. Overnight, it requires 7 to 8 hours of unbroken sleep. This is in addition to the fact that 98 to 99% of people believe in God. Humans require 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. I believe we've all pondered at some point. Why do humans sleep for so long? And neuroscience is providing some answers to that question. I've obviously worked as a junior doctor and travel a lot. As a result, I'm frequently jet-lagged, and I don't want anyone to notice. To get the unexpected thought, oh my God, I'm going to have dementia, because the research supports this, if we constantly disturb the cleansing process that it is causally tied to our lives. Dementia can develop later in life due to a variety of factors. I only strive to get 8 hours of good sleep each night. Whenever I am able. If my sleep is disrupted as a result of jet lag or other factors, I take use of the opportunity to transform myself. Since it's on my left or right side, the most effective position for sleeping in order for the cleansing process to be effective. As a result, sleep has taken on a greater significance for me. Based on the study that is being published. Thank you for listening in Audiobook Academy. Please don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. See you in next audiobook.